God, Chris's meat is solid. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Moto Stories with Unky Phil. And this one's special because if you are listening to Moto Stories with Unky Phil, you know we also have a motorcycle podcast. Now, how did the podcast get started? Because there are a lot of podcasts out in the world. There's no shortage. But with us, our podcast got started actually because we were working on motorcycles out in the garage.
I don't think there were a lot of podcasts back in 2009 when we started.
Not enough. And I was taking cross-country trips, selling motorcycles in California, bringing bikes back, and I would digest 12, 16 hours of podcasts per day. I went through the existing motorcycle podcasts pretty fast. And I decided that there should be more. Well, one night we're in Dustin's garage, we're tearing apart a CB750, and our friends would join us. They'd know that we were going to be doing some motorcycle wrenching on Friday or Saturday night. There's not a lot else going on, maybe off-season wintertime. And our friends came in and just would watch us tearing bikes apart and be like, you guys are kind of fucking hilarious.
It was very much a baby born of boredom.
It was. It really was.
You can't ride, you can't do anything. So wintertime, we'd get together and do this, and it was a lot of fun.
It was just a blast to get in the garage and tear a bike down. And the idea came, okay, we bought a little recorder. We put the recorder by the motorcycle we were working on, and we just kept tearing into the bike. And we'd smoke cigarettes, we'd drink beers, and we'd have just the normal conversations that we have. And yeah, we're people that love old motorcycles, but we also love poking fun at each other. We love being silly cut-ups, and the lubrication of the beer and the bourbon, that helps.
Obviously, there's a lot more to our motorcycle podcast than just motorcycles.
As many of you have reported that they want to get back to the motorcycle content, but with a motorcycle podcast, what you're doing is you're essentially sharing your shop or your hobby, the thing you love to do, with other people. We went down into the studio because Dustin has a baller studio in his basement.
I felt special.
Professional grade studio in the basement. And we went down there to make it better, to create a higher quality thing. But what we had lost that, intermissions would happen so we could go have a beer or a pee or a cigarette. And the intermission would happen, we'd go back into the garage for our beer break or smoke break. There's no beer in the studio. And because he's fucking anal about that.
No cigarettes.
No cigarettes for sure. And we'd go back up and Dustin would be like, oh man, I wish we were recording this because this is great.
Yes.
I was like, well, it turns out these things help us. And this is not necessarily a crutch, but it helps.
It's a lubricant.
It's a lubricant for sure. It's a lubricant. And so as we started getting back into the idea of, okay, well, maybe the studio in the basement wasn't the best idea. Then we started doing more and more from the shop. And we set up a recording rig and Sleepy got involved. And everything, just the quality went up, right? We got better stuff. And our podcast
the quality of the sound got better. I'm not sure the content got better.
Also true. But everybody brought something. So Dan brought in, we instantly started drinking better, right? So Dan shows up and starts bringing bottle after bottle after bottle, or beer after beer after beer. And all these things made the podcast get a little better. Having Chris and some of the people that have come in too, he's not a motorcycle mechanic.
No.
No, but he's looking at the world as a guy who wants to buy and ride motorcycles because you took a long time off.
Sure.
Chris mainly has jokes and meat.
He does bring the charcuterie. God, Chris's meat is solid. So as the friend group gets a little bigger and the podcast gets a little bigger, our microphones were bought for us by a listener.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and talking about Chris Franklin and like listeners that are like, I want to listen to a better podcast. And I'm willing to buy you microphones so I don't have to listen to garbage. Which one of us hasn't been at an event and just been bullshitting with one of our friends and had somebody walking by and go, whoa, I know that voice.
Yeah.
That's Johnny Mac. Yeah. And they like loop in, and we might be at a motorcycle show, we might be at a swap meet, we might be at an event, and they'll just hear us. Oscar and I were on a bus in the Isle of Man. And Oscar and I were just talking to each other, having a conversation. And I only ever sound like this. So people that were 5 seats behind us on the bus rolled forward in the bus and went, holy shit, are you guys from the Cleveland Moto podcast?
No shit.
I mean, one of my favorite things is when our podcast joins up with somebody else's podcast and we have a multi-podcast, or like when we were in Portland and those girls had the one podcast and we were guests on their podcast, they were guests on ours.
Yeah.
Or when we're at Mid-Ohio, we get, us and the NOCO and the Misfits all doing a podcast together. That's awesome.
It has really been a great outlet for me to be hanging with my friends and doing cool stuff, because the podcast has led to other stuff. The podcast has led to, we go shoot guns sometimes. We do events, and these guys do a North Carolina trip. I haven't gone because I'm very busy when they do this, but they go and they take over the mountains of North Carolina and have a blast. I really dig it. I got to say that I feel really special that we've been able to have something in our motorcycle community here in Cleveland that has been going on and bringing more and more people into the fold every single time we do it.
Yep.
So if you think that you're going to produce something or just throw something out there off your phone and nobody's going to pay attention to it, you're probably wrong.
Yeah.
We have a secret weapon. We've got Sleepy, but not everyone does.
This year at Mid-Ohio was exceptional. Like just people, Johnny Mac.
Oh, God.
It was like,
Yeah.
wow.
And also the podcast led to the Bourbon Fairy.
Yes.
So now that's the whole thing. We've invented a superhero. So if you don't know about the Bourbon Fairy, you should look it up. It's pretty important. So that's it, guys. If you've enjoyed this, remember that Sleepy has been doing so much with Moto Stories. Sleepy's been doing so much with Cleveland Moto Podcast and Cleveland Moto in general. We're trying to cover all kinds of stuff. So if you have something you want us to talk about, all you got to do is get in the comments section and hit it. Yeah, everyone says, like and subscribe, You're going to do that on your own. We don't need to beg you to do that. If you like it, go ahead and do it. There's so much content up there right now. Anybody got anything else? As we always say, fuck it, ride fast and take chances. Hit the red button, Sleepy. Get us the hell out of here, man.